one of the stories from one of the nurses there, she said that one time she even had to have up to 8 ICU patients to her. And I asked her, how is that possible? She said that they just were super short-staffed, and they gave every ICU nurse 8 ICU patients. And granted, they gave her, I believe, 2 med-surg nurses, but a med-surg nurse, it's wonderful. She's wonderful at multitasking, but they are not an ICU nurse. So at the end, it was just very dangerous. And even she told me at one point that they were even short-staffed from doctors. So even hospital, like they didn't even have enough intensivists. So even hospitalists were asking the ICU nurse, they were calling the ICU nurses for orders for ICU patients. Because even as a doctor, the hospital is not the same as an intensivist. It's just not the same. They have a different role. So it got that bad that hospitals were asking ICU nurses for orders, like what orders to give. So it was bad. I can see how some people might enjoy it. Like really outgoing people, they might love traveling because they go to new places, they meet new people, they make new friends. Like I can see the appeal on it. But for me, I am outgoing up to a certain extent, and I also like regularity up to a certain extent. Like I want to know, once you get to a unit, I want to know where the medications are. I want to know the code to get into the room, to get into the medications. Because in a life-threatening situation, all of these things can add up. All of these things can add up. It can be as tragic as the nurse on her first day has a dying patient and she doesn't even know where her supplies are. You're a nurse, but you're crippled in a new unit. So for me, I feel very, I don't want to say threatened, but I feel very out of my environment whenever I get to a new assignment, just because I don't know where anything is. I don't know how to reach doctors. I don't know who my coworkers are. I don't know the system. You don't know anything. So you have to be like very adapting, and you have to be a very fast learner. Like usually hospitals will not have the patience to, let's give you a week of orientation. Usually is sometimes even like 4 hours of orientation and you're on your own, and it's just not ideal. But again, that's what they're paying you for, because they're extremely short staffed, and that's why they're giving you the higher rate, because they need you like yesterday. So they don't have time to train you. So you are expected to get there and know all of your bases and figure out the rest. And besides that, is also the whole traveling is very overrated in my opinion, because it's a lot harder than what people make it seem. It's not easy, because you have to go to a new place, you have to find where to sleep, you don't know anybody. Sometimes you can get depressed because you're in a new environment and you can't go out with anybody because you don't know anybody. So it's hard in that sense. However, I can see how some people might enjoy it, especially people that don't have like children or strong family ties, and are very outgoing. I do, actually. I am getting tired of being an intensive care nurse, just because it's very hard. It's very hard. Like one whole shift in the ICU is just about the level of stress that I need in a week. I don't know how some nurses can work 6 days in the intensive care unit. I don't feel that is healthy for your own sake. Just because once you go into work, you are constantly at a high stress level, even as a traveler, especially as a traveler, because you get the worst assignments as a traveler. because staff nurses usually think, well, you're getting paid for it, so let's give you the worst patients. So your stress level is constantly very high. So I would like to I actually do enjoy it, but not every day. I would like to keep being an ICU nurse, but working per diem, like just once a week. I like it because I feel intellectually challenged. Like I'm challenged every time I go to work. Every time I go to work is a different situation. So that is enjoyable once a week. Not any more than that. Now, on other specialties that I have thought about are like, I have thought about PACU, like the post anesthesia care unit, just because it's still in the intensive care realm, but it's not as stressful, just because you do have the anesthesiologist there with you. You can have the intensivist there with you, and you only care for the patient for a certain amount of hours, and then they go to the floor, and then you get a new patient, like a new card. So I'm thinking about the PACU. I also thought about cath lab, but I'm very much more inclined into trying PACU or the OR, but I want PACU more than anything else. Yeah. I thought about it because I'm young. I'm actually 24. So I don't know if I can stay as a floor nurse until I'm 65. That sounds like a very long time. Even as a PACU nurse, I don't think that I'm gonna be able to do it, even as a PACU nurse. But I don't think that I would go the NP route, just because now, in order for you to become an NP, you have to get it's better for you to get your doctorate degree, because everything is more competitive. Almost every single nurse wants to become an NP, and almost every single nurse becomes an NP just because of how easy it is to become an NP, because NP programs are completely online. So it's a lot more accessible, which is good. But now you have an influx of nurses that they're all NPs. So what that creates is, one, perhaps the quality of providers are not as good or as appropriate. And two, the pay is low, because why am I going to go get a doctor's degree when I can make more as a floor nurse, which actually I saw that happening. I saw that happening. Give me a second. I'm like, no, ¿qué pasó, mami? ¿Qué pasó? Venga. Quédese aquí. Ay, ¿qué pasó? Actually, I saw that happening at the hospital. I saw a couple of NPs that were doing travel nursing in some instances, and I also saw a couple of staff nurses who already had their NP, but were still staff nurses, just because even staff pay is more than NP. And when I asked some of the nurses, some of them were doing NP as a side job, not as their main job. So the pay is low. So if a staff nurse is making $70,000 a year or $80,000 a year, then how much NPs are making? And for the loans that you have to get, for the time that you have to invest, I just think that that's not worth it, in my opinion. Now, there are other venues, specialties, that I think that will be more profitable and worth the extra education and the extra expense, because going to school is expensive, very expensive. So midwife is one of them, and the other one is a CRNA. Those are the two options that I feel that are worth going to school another 3 or 4 years, especially CRNA. But CRNA is very hard to get into. which might be the reason why they get paid so high, because there's not as many providers. I've enjoyed my time with my coworkers. I can say that. I can honestly say that. I have enjoyed working with nurses. I have nurses that are very much teamwork approach. Like, they love to be part of a teamwork. I have also met some nurses that they think that they can manage the whole ship on their own, and some do manage it on their own, which is amazing to watch in the times that it has happened. But overall, I really enjoyed it. Shout out to all of my ex-coworkers. Everybody knows who they are. You know who they are. And that's it. I enjoyed my time.